Okay, this is Mr. Daniels. He is Faith's father, and we're going to talk a little bit about Faith. Mr. Daniels, tell me about some of Faith's early difficulties with reading and when it was first discovered that she had some issues and needed some assistance.
As far as I know, it's gone all the way back to probably kindergarten, first grade, even that far back, is struggling being slow. Uh, I would say slower than some of maybe my other children at the same time frame, all the way up to at least I know second and third grade. Uh, she would struggle so much she would uh, run from it, hide from it. She was really nervous in class. She would even hide papers. She would, she thinking it would go away if you hit it and threw it away or whatever. But she was running from it even from a very young age. I guess second or third grade, um, teachers started noticing her being a little slower, having a harder time, and I guess they were pushing it to be developmental. Um, Being that I, as her father, had issues when I was that age, I could even remember struggling, so I could see myself in her. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when I would start seeing those types of things, I would even feel it myself for her.
Mm-hmm.
So I would find myself fighting harder for her in areas of being away from the teaching norm, knowing that she needed special assistance.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I guess second and third grade was probably, because that's where a lot of I believe most of the foundations are
Mm-hmm.
for actual reading. You have, you know, first first grade, it's small words and visualizations and phonics.
Mm-hmm.
But when she really has to start doing more than sounding out each letter than saying the word, she would do that, have to sound out, ah,
Mm-hmm.
probably a lot more further along into second and third grade, and you could see that she would struggle. And then when she felt herself, I think, behind the other students, is when we started seeing her grades start to go down.
Did you notice at that time any difficulties with writing early on that maybe gave you some ideas that
I
she
don't
was
think it's
having
so
some
much writing.
issues?
Like I said, I don't think writing as much, because I don't know if it was visual. I think she could copy what she could see.
Okay.
Um, Now, I did notice a lot of, in numbers, threes backwards. You would think it. You would write a three one way and it would be opposite way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would see letters and numbers in second and third grade very high with that happening. Uh, Not just the B's and D's, it was P's and other letters you would see written backwards. Even a Y that had a long side on one side and a short side on the other
Mm-hmm.
were, backwards. They were almost mirror image. And you would see her copying things mirror image a lot. Um,
Did you notice that Faith was delayed in speaking early on, or did she talk early, or did she seem to be
I think it was about average.
about average?
Yeah,
Okay.
speaking, I think was about average. I had one daughter that was real fast. I had one that was a little slower. So she was. I don't think it was. I just think it was in the middle. I don't think speaking.
Okay.
I didn't notice that. So.
Did you notice early on any difficulties with her speech that she mispronounced words or substituted words that
Well, she
maybe
would
were
call
not
words that she would hope to guess.
okay?
You'd see a guessing.
Okay.
You know, she would hope that she would guess it right.
Okay.
So I think it's. Does that make sense?
What you're saying is that you would basically see that she would maybe look at words and not be sure that she knew what they were, but
Longer
would make
words,
a guess.
Yeah, as the words were longer,
Mm-hmm.
she would be able to sound out the first letter or two, then she would guess the rest, try to
Okay.
guess the rest of it.
Okay.
You know?
So if it had multiple syllables to it, she
Ooh,
would
yeah.
do just the first little bit and then
hope,
manufacture whatever was
right,
left.
hoping
Okay.
that was it. Yeah.
Well, Faith's got some real strengths. She's decided she likes to read, and she told me that she has kind of gotten that from, I guess, the example of some sisters that she has. That she says read a lot, and she's decided she likes to read some of the same books that they do, which has, I think, really helped her. We used some of those books in instruction, and really she seemed to do much better with those than assigned texts from academic sources. We worked some with one of her biology lessons, and I see a marked difference in her reading fiction for enjoyment as opposed to reading fiction for instruction.
I think it's similar to what I went through. If a story makes a picture in her mind as it's going along, then she can do pretty well. But if it's a little more technical, she would struggle. Something like it's a how-to.
Right.
She would probably struggle more than something that she knew that would be like a movie in her mind.
Right.
You know, that would make
So
a movie.
you think that she pictures images as she reads, and
I
she
think
has
so,
difficulty?
because I saw some of my problems, and that's what I catch myself doing. So I think that we have some similarity as far as that's concerned. So.
Okay, one of the weaknesses, or some of the weaknesses that I see in Faith, is the same thing that you mentioned. When it comes to multiple syllable words, she will sound out maybe the first syllable, maybe the first two, and then she either can't bring up the other syllables, or she manufactures what she thinks it is and proceeds from there. One of the things that I've done with her is taking multiple syllable words and drawing lines through the syllables and having her see where those lines are. And using a colored pencil helps her do that. Another thing that I have encouraged her to do is to use a Post-it note and to make notes when she reads so that she can remember what she's read. Maybe even draw little doodle images of what she's read to encourage her to retain the information that she has read and be able to recall it. Because I think sometimes, because she doesn't, as you say, create those word images, she doesn't always remember exactly what she's read because she cannot create that image. And I understand, when I talk with her, I hear a lot of, I see what you're saying, which leads me to believe that she is very visual in her perceptions and her understandings. I understand that Faith is involved in art, and that she does a pretty extensive lot of work with that and really enjoys that. So I've encouraged her to use that whenever she can with regard to things that she's reading, to create art images to help with retention, even if they're just little stick figure images. So that's something that I have encouraged her to do. I do have a brochure for you here that outlines the testing that we've done on Faith. It outlines her strengths, as we've discussed, and her weaknesses. And here we have some suggestions on things that she can do at home and also that will benefit her at school. One of the things that I really encourage you to talk with her teachers about is that Faith needs a quiet place to read away from distractions. I see a little bit of inattentive ADD there. She tends to sort of daydream when the reading becomes too complex. And one thing that will help her is to have a quiet place to read. Same thing at home, where she can shut the door and not be distracted by other sounds or functions. One of the things that we do know about dyslexia is that in the dyslexic child, it takes 4 times as much brain work for them to do a verbal task as it does a child who does not have dyslexia. So there are some very structural differences that really are medical. They're not visual. They're not comprehensive. They have to do with the functionality in the brain and how it fires. And so she will need some things that other kids may not necessarily need. One of those is she's going to need to continue to use her overlay. And she really doesn't like to use the overlay, so I have encouraged her to cut a small strip that's about the size of a bookmark. Now, granted, that will only cover a couple of lines at a time, but she can also use that as a placeholder, which is another problem that she has because she will tend at times to skip entire lines of text and not realize that she skipped them.
Right.
So with that little strip, she can not only use that as a placeholder, but the color of it will also help to offset the difficulties that we know she has from Ireland syndrome. Now, do you have any questions for me about things that we can provide? Because I've given you a pretty good comprehensive list. Are there any questions you have
No.
about what I've provided you here? And I'm willing to continue to work with Faith if she wants to continue to be tutored. I think tutoring will be very beneficial to her.
Oh yeah.
And we'll encourage her to continue to read, and hopefully we'll see some more leaps and bounds. I noticed in the post test that I did on her, she made significant gains both in reading and comprehension, in fluency. I saw some significant improvement over the first test that I did on her.
Okay.
So, are
Sounds
there
great.
any other questions that you have?
No. Sounds
Okay,
good.
great, Mr. Daniels. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you letting me work with Faith.
All right. Bye.